Viewers, you are watching AMN Plus Dr. Ali's program with me, your host, Alula Brhani. We are having a nice stay with Associate Professor Joachim Grigor Peterson, who teaches in ASFAD, Al School of Fine Arts and Design here in Addis Ababa University. Do stay with us. So let's come to the point. How do you describe the life that you are having at Al School of Fine Arts and Design? I think, how long have you been here in Addis Ababa?
Yes, I've been 15 years working full time here, but I first worked at the Theological University, what is now the Holy Trinity Theological University, and then I moved to the Addis Ababa University. But I've been working at least 11 or 12 years at the art school.
How is life treating you there?
Well, I think there are some very positive aspects. The positive aspect, one thing is that there's a very good relationship between staff and students. And there's a strong sense of solidarity and of working together for the benefit of the institution. And the development is really orientated towards making things better for the students. And this is something very positive. So in general, there's a very positive atmosphere. Also, many of the members of staff are practicing artists. They are involved in interesting architectural projects. And there is good exchange with abroad, and there are foreign experts who come and who give courses in their field of expertise. There are also graduates from the school who study abroad, who come back and who share their experiences. So the students have a lot of opportunity to gain new experiences, to gain exposure to international ideas and developments, and so on. So that is very positive. And as a venue, the campus of Arla School of Fine Art Design and the art gallery is used for a lot of interesting events. Also, institutions from outside come and organize events there. For example, recently there was a conference about art preservation and conservation, which was actually a cooperation between the University of Antwerp in Belgium and Bahadar University, but it took place at our institution. There was also an art exhibition which by physically handicapped artists, which was sponsored by the Austrian embassy and which took place on our campus. So there are a lot of interesting things going on, and this is very inspiring and encouraging. I think, as I mentioned before, the emphasis in the institution has traditionally been on art praxis rather than art theory.
Okay.
And I think that there is still a tendency to emphasize the art practice at the expense of the art theory. So there are various events which are going on which are related to research, but there are not that many members of staff who are really deeply involved in research. And so I think that it would be good to do more to encourage research engagement.
point of, the contribution of art in fixing the socio-economic challenges that a nation might have. Art plays a great role in creating positive narrations, in shaping good visionary realities that a nation aspires to reach at. So there are lots of things that could be done. So what should be done? What have you really experienced, and how could art be made to contribute a lot than it's contributing now? And
Yes.
What should be done to expand the influence of art school for the great development of the nation?
Yes, art, the creative industries, they can play a big role in many different ways. I mean, just one very simple way, a lot of, if people have choice of buying industrial products, they often prefer foreign products because they are better packaged and presented. And the Ethiopian products might be of as high quality, but the presentation is less attractive. So simply by upgrading the design and presentation, they would contribute a lot to the quality and the saleability of the products. And our graduates can play a role in that kind of thing. I think that also art can play a role in promoting intercultural and interethnic acceptance and tolerance and appreciation. If we teach people to share about and to appreciate different artistic and cultural traditions, then we encourage a sense of unity in diversity. And I know that, for example, I used to teach in a summer program which was for students from the countryside to who were upgrading from a certificate to degree level. And I was teaching aesthetics in this context, and when I taught about aesthetics, in addition to teaching about the aesthetics of Christian art in Ethiopia, I also taught about Islamic art and the aesthetics of Islamic art, and I also taught about Oromo art and different expressions of Oromo art. And the students were very happy because they felt that their culture and their tradition was being recognized and was being valued. And so I think that art can play a big role in promoting a sense of unity and diversity and appreciation of different cultures and different traditions. I think one of the challenges concerning art in Ethiopia and the art market is that the art market and the art scene in Ethiopia is very expatriate orientated. The most important buyers of art are expatriates or Ethiopians who have lived abroad and who come back to visit here. And there's less of an interest from the local community. And there are wealthy Ethiopians who have money to invest in different things, but they don't invest in art. And I think there's a challenge to develop more appreciation of art, to develop more of a sense of art being an innate part of culture and something which needs to be nurtured and valued. I think in Ethiopia there is a little bit of a tradition that artists are artisans, in other words, people who work with their hands, and they're not really considered intellectuals, and their contribution to national culture isn't highly regarded. And I think more needs to be done and also people often associate art with being on the edge of society and sometimes with drugs or alcohol or negative alternative lifestyles, and this makes for example, some parents hesitant to encourage their children to study art. Mostly, parents are more happy if their children study industrial design. But when it comes to art, they're sometimes a bit skeptical, particularly when it comes to women, young women. Mm-hmm. And we have, in industrial design, there are more young women, but in the other sections, departments of art, there are fewer. And there's obviously, families prefer their young women to study accountancy or other things.
What should be done in that regard? What do you advise them?
Well,
how can we just change such awareness?
I think the media, if the media gives more coverage to art and the positive influence of art, I think that will, and how it plays an important social role, I think that would be very important. I think also the education system, that it has to be something grassroots, that from the beginning, art is not treated just as an optional extra, which is of minor significance, but the power of art to transform societies is recognized, and that it's given its true place in the educational system. I think that would make a big difference. I think it has to come from the grassroots.
I always see you that when you wear traditional etiquettes or cultural clothes,
yes.
Ethiopian clothes. Tell us about those preferences.
Yes.
Most of the time, that's what you always, practice with, and
yes.
what feeling does spark in your heart?
I think it's...
If people ask you, why do you wear?
Well,
why Ethiopian
firstly, because I enjoy wearing it.
Okay.
And I think it's, I also in other countries, I used to like wearing traditional clothing and the sense of association with indigenous culture which this generates. But I think it's very important to encourage people to have appreciation of local traditional culture. Mm-hmm. And also the traditional culture items are going to disappear if they're not being used.
I see.
The weavers and the artisans producing the local fabrics and the local clothing items, if they don't have a market, they will stop producing them. And there is a tradition of using traditional clothing at festivals, but I think that we can also use it for everyday purposes, and you can also modernize and adapt the use of traditional clothing and traditional artifacts. So I try to play some role in this sphere as
promoting
well.
this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you might have touched it, but I want you to underscore the fact that how do you believe in academia can foster, you know, people's, I mean, people to people kind of social cohesion, in a sense, social cohesion, a very equitable, a very more inclusive society here in Ethiopia and beyond. What should be made? In what kind of teachings or what kind of approach should we practice as to make artists bring people, society together and aspire for a common shared vision rather than as a point of coalition, I mean conflict like that?
Yes.
Because
well,
everything has got, art has multiple kind of interpretation.
Well,
What
I
should be done in
think
this regard as a scholar?
we are living very much in a world, the world of the internet and social media.
I see.
And particularly young people are very strongly influenced by social media. And the danger with social media is that people get isolated in echo chambers, and that they only associate with media which promotes certain ideas which they identify with, and that people lose the wider picture. And that is something which we are seeing that everywhere in the world, particularly in America. Things are getting very polarized, and there's no room in the middle. And the big role and function of art is to create a sphere of interaction where people with different viewpoints and understandings can come together and interact with each other. So I think that art plays a very big role in this. And when we learn, when people from different, I think it's very important to break down barriers. I think when people live side by side in isolated groups, then they will be suspicious of each other and they will look down on each other. But when they learn to share their life experience, to share their culture, their different traditions with each other, when they learn to appreciate each other, that promotes solidarity and social cohesion. And art can play a very big role in this.
Professor, we were dwelling on different issues. Now, then my next question is AI, the induction of artificial intelligence. There are ongoing debates. Some people say AI is good for expanding creativity in aesthetics and fine arts kind of activity, and some people argue that some other, debate that it's not good for creativity because it curates, some artificial kind of thing, which is not natural, and as well, people's creativity is not well regarded. Which side do you agree? What's your reflection in this regard? Whom do you favor? It's inevitable that the world is going to the digital world.
Artificial intelligence is here to stay, and it will inevitably have a big impact on all of our lives. And we can't prevent this, but we can try to steer the development in a healthy direction. As as far as art is concerned, it does create challenges because, for example, music, theater, acting, using artificial intelligence, it's possible to take someone's artistic production and then to develop, without asking their permission, to use it to develop new artistic works using artificial intelligence. And this is a threat to the copyright rights of the artists. And we need a healthy discussion about this and to decide how to deal with this in an ethical manner. And if we just ignore it, it will create problems. I mean, artificial intelligence, for example, in medicine, it's very useful. And computers can use huge resources of medical data to process information quickly, and that can give very valuable results which can promote development and checking. But it's always better if it's done in cooperation with human beings as a check. And diagnosis, when it's used as a backup for diagnosis, it can be very useful. But if it's done, if it becomes independent, then it can become dangerous. And in general, most important new technological innovations caused big change, very rapid change, which had very serious consequences, both negative and positive. For example, the introduction of the printing press was followed by periods of great social unrest and the development of new religious movements, the birth of the Protestant movement, period of religious wars. It was only after that that people learned how to use the innovations in a positive way, and with the growth of literacy and other things, it then developed positively and led to social development. But in the initial period, there was a lot of turbulence and unrest and war and strife as a result. So we have to be careful. Innovative new media can have negative effects, and we need to, and particularly something, one of the problems with artificial intelligence is that it can escape our control. And we mustn't let that happen. If we, its use is inevitable. We can't avoid it. But what we need to do is to study it, to research about it, to discuss about it, to see how it can be used in an ethical way with appropriate controls so that it produces, it promotes human benefit, not harm.
Very good. What makes Ethiopia, specifically Addis Ababa, from the cities that you have visited, special maybe? Which is, if someone have asked you, you were in Addis Ababa, and what makes it different from other cities? I used to ask such questions to people. What would you say?
Well,
what is it? The peculiar nature of Addis?
Yes.
Is that the cultural fabric or the dances? I don't know. Is that the joy?
There are many things, but I think, as I mentioned before, I had lived in the Middle East and in black African countries, and Ethiopia is somehow a combination of the two. I think Addis Ababa is a city which has grown organically, in contrast, for example, with Asmara, which was built as a planned provincial colonial Italian city. And it was traditionally a city in which poor and rich people lived close to each other. There was a strong sense of solidarity and social cohesion, and that's something positive. And I hope that the current development will not lead to too much gentrification, and that we won't lose the sense of social cohesion and solidarity, and we will continue to think about giving place for the less wealthy elements of society. So I hope that this sense of community, which has been so characteristic of Addis Ababa, will continue.
My last question, Professor, what advice would you give to students aspiring to follow your foot track in art school or in this career in fine arts? What advice do you have? Because like what you have been saying, there are people who are talented in artists and aesthetics, though it is underscored that it has a great potential for nation development, but it's not valued in a way, and family doesn't want, or family don't want their children to master or specialize in such kind of things. So, but there are people, talented people, so I think, what advice? There are some challenges.
Yes.
What you tell them, what advice would you tell them?
There aren't many people who are specialized in aesthetics. There are a few art critics in the media. There are a few people who are knowledgeable about arts. There are a few curators. And we really need to develop greater number of people who have skill in these areas, and this would contribute much to national development. As far as the art students are concerned, I think it's important for people to discover their passion, to discover what they're really interested in, what really motivates and interests them, and then to be wholeheartedly engaged with that. And I think if you really have a vision, if you know what you're passionate about, then you will be able to persuade your parents to let you study that, and you will be able to make a career of that and become successful in that. And don't underestimate the theoretical dimension. Even if you want to become a studio artist, if you understand more about art theory and how to be articulate about art, you will be much more successful.
Thank you very much, Professor, and we really appreciate your time, and thank you for your cooperation. That was my questions. Viewers, I was having a nice stay with Professor Joachim Grigor Peterson, who is a scholar and an academician in Aleph Fine Arts School and Design here in Addis Ababa University. He came all the way to our studio to have a nice stay with us and share us his ideas about fine arts and its contribution to national development. I, Alula Brahani, have been hosting him here in the studio. It was Talk to Addis program, and we're done with our questions. I expect that you have got some insightful lessons. Till we meet up with another guest in another program, it ends here. Bye-bye.